What's going on, guys? So we are still out here at eTrailer's corporate headquarters. This is a really cool environment to film at because they have so much stuff that's so important to folks who are going to be towing, carrying bikes around, all sorts of different things. And with me, I have Evangeline.
Yes.
And you want to kind of introduce yourself and what you do here?
Hi, I'm a test fit installer here at eTrailer. So I work with bike racks, roof racks, kayak carriers, all the fun stuff. So when we talk about bike racks, I've put a lot of bikes on a lot of bike racks and a lot of bike racks on a lot of cars and RVs.
Yeah, very cool. And you know, whenever we wanted to shoot this segment, this is the person they said we have to actually post this segment because she knows everything about this stuff. And one of the first questions I asked was about RV rated bike racks, because believe it or not, you can't just go to any store, pick up a bike rack and think that it will function well on your motorhome, on your Class A, on your Class B, on a fifth wheel or travel trailer. A lot of RVs have 2-inch receivers on the back.
Yes.
And you'll always hear if it's rated for towing or if it's just rated for like accessories. This is what's considered an accessory. At the same time though, just like hitches that are rated for towing and hitches that are rated for accessories, bike racks are rated for different things. Some of them are not rated for e-bikes because of the weight of e-bikes. Some of them are not rated for RVs in general. Some are only rated for certain types of vehicles. So real quickly, if you could, can you kind of walk us around some of these bike racks and go over some of the differentiations between them and why somebody might prefer one over another?
So it really depends on what type of bike you're carrying and how often you need to take your bike off. Because sometimes we have your really simple minimalist style of a bike rack, but you can see here it has a smaller shank. So that's not going to work for your RV. But sometimes they make that exact same bike rack with a 2-inch shank, like what they did here with the Ceres HD Super Clamp. So here you've got your pin. They give you like an extra bolt that you're supposed to use with this too. That way, the big difference between an RV and a car bike rack is an RV is a lot longer. So you're gonna have a lot more sway, a lot more vibration, a lot more movement. So if you don't have an RV rated bike rack, chances are a little bit higher of you possibly breaking your bike rack or losing your bikes. Now, with those heavier duty bike racks though, you also have a lot of weight you're gonna have to carry. So like this is the Swagman E-Spec. Super popular, great for electric bikes, has, I'd like to say, a 70-pound weight capacity, but you are gonna have to lift your bikes up and into things like the cradles, and you can't tilt this one away, which is common for RV bike racks, plus you have stuff like a hook you need to deal with.
Okay, so when we talk about not being able to tilt it away versus being able to tilt it away, on RV bike racks, that's one thing I've noticed is there's usually not some dedicated like hinging mechanism that you just pull a lever and the thing tilts back. Is that because it's a possible failure point?
I think it's just because you don't need to tilt it away on an RV. Like, why would you need that extra hinge if you're not going to use it on an RV? So like for a car, you would tilt your bike rack away with the bikes on to open up your hatch or to open up your trunk or lower your tailgate. But on an RV, if you tilt it away,
yeah, what are you really
what are you
accomplishing? Yeah, exactly.
So then why get a hinge there if you don't need it?
That's true. That's true. And another interesting thing, so this is the bike rack I have. I believe it's an Inno.
Okay, Inno tire hold?
Yeah, and that thing's been really cool. I love it, but it's I don't want to say insanely heavy, but it's really heavy.
It is heavy.
And I think for folks getting into bicycling, especially if you're in the RV lifestyle, that's a really big thing to think about. And what's the convenience factor of actually being able to move the thing around, even when you're not using it, just to move it around your garage? So when you're talking about lighter weight bike racks, do you give up strength sometimes, or do you give up features?
So the bike rack itself, if it's heavy, I always think about, I just need to put it on my RV once. Like that's all I need it to do. Just need to get there once. So I'll call up my friends. Like I'm not the strongest or tallest person. So then sometimes I get friends to help it out, get it in there. But if you're traveling a lot and or you're, taking the bike off, putting it back on, that's when you have to think about it. It's really what kind of like adventures you're going on.
So of all these bike racks that you have on display, is your best selling one, your most popular one here? And if so, why?
I guess our best the one people always ask for would be the Hollywood Racks RV Rider. And I get it, because it has like the largest wheelbase, it can do the most things, it has the strongest weight capacity, things like that. The downside to this though is I have to deal with a gazillion and 2 clamps to move anything. Like I'm sitting away here unthreading a bolt in order to take that off, push this pin out in order to fold it down, and I haven't even gotten the bike up yet. So very popular, like an 80-pound weight capacity. But then you have to deal with things like clamps and straps and hooks. So for people who know what they're getting into and who want to take that, like they're like, yeah, I'm ready. I got a heavy bike. I want the strongest, sturdiest bike rack. Go for it. But people who aren't that used to the hassles of carrying a bike around on their RV, I would recommend like something more simple. Like the on-ramp has been very popular for that reason.
Okay, so with this bike rack, I can tell by the cradles, which is essentially this part right here that your tires rest in. This looks like it's designed for multiple different types of bikes, like an e-bike with fat tires, or your standard mountain bike. When you buy a bike rack like this, is this going to be universal to just about any bike you want to put on it, or is this one mainly designed for like a fat tire bike? So
this is probably one of our more universal bike racks. It has a 5-inch maximum tire width for your fat bikes. You've got 85-pound weight capacity. The one downside to this is well, I guess it's an upside too. It's a frame mount that you can move. So even if you have like a step-through frame, very popular for your beach cruiser styles, that's good. Now carbon fiber frames, probably not as ideal.
Okay. Now I'm noticing something about this bike rack, and I think you mentioned it to me earlier, but this one actually has a ramp
attached to it. So this is actually what I got for my aunt. So she likes they're up in South Dakota, so you know, they like to do the snowbird life. So this has a ramp that's attached to the bike rack. So right here. Some other racks have ramps, but they're not attached, and I'm forgetful. So
you have to have a place to store it, essentially. Yeah.
So I'm already on the road, and then I didn't realize, dang it, I forgot to bring the ramp. It's too late now. So here's just like a quick and easy, like you get your bike, you clip this ramp into the side, and then you could just, if I had clearance, I'd show you, but then you can just ramp your bike up and into the rack. So I like that because it's nice, it's simple, it's easy. There's a lot of adjustability to this one too.
Okay, so when somebody calls or searches on etrailer.com and they're trying to figure out what's best for them, is it important to have like all the information, like what is it going to be attached to? Is it going to go from maybe an RV whenever we take the RV out, but then I'll throw it in the receiver on my pickup truck whenever we're just taking the pickup truck out? And because I'm guessing that there's a lot of variables when it comes to what bike rack's perfect. And you guys carry so many different bike racks. You obviously do it because not every bike rack is like a universal fit for every lifestyle.
It isn't. And that's like, so here I put the on-ramp on dozens of different cars and sometimes on motorhomes and things like that, just because it's gonna fit differently, whether you have like a ladder in the back, whether you put it on a truck and you need to lower the tailgate, will things tilt away far enough? There's so many factors to consider with a bike rack. If you just know like what type of hitch receiver do you have, what type of car, RV, motorhome do you have, what types of bikes do you have, and we're talking about weight of your bike. Is your battery detachable? Do you need a ramp? And things like that. That will help you a lot with just going through, checking off all those different filters and then finding the right one for you.
Okay, and then one kind of final odd question to talk about is bike rack failures. Well, let's talk about two things. First, theft, because I've seen the YouTube videos where a thief runs up behind a motorhome or a trailer and they start unbuckling the bike real quick. Which one of these, I guess, offers the more, I guess, secure mechanism for folks who might carry like a $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 bike behind their vehicle, and they're just really, really worried that somebody could run up behind their RV or run up behind their vehicle and potentially take it from them?
So that's the downside with locks. Every lock can be broken into. They're more of a theft deterrent than a theft. Like, if someone wants it, they're gonna get it. But if someone is just casually walking by and sees a bike locked up, they're like, I can't get it. You know, I think locks just keep honest people honest. But On that note, I think we've come to a point where everyone has their own different way of doing locks. So you're gonna have like hitch pin locks or hitch bolt locks, which keeps the bike rack into the hitch receiver. And then you're gonna have cable locks that go around your bikes. Now the thing with cable locks is almost everyone has a cable lock included, but remember you have to take them off before you start traveling. So it's pretty annoying once you get to the gas station. Other bike racks, we'll walk over here real quick, have a lock attached to their clamps.
Oh, that's cool.
So see how this is a frame mount? So it's holding onto your frame, and then you can like lock that so they can't loosen it. So I think almost everyone has a method of locking or a way to add a lock on. It's just which one are you more comfortable with?
Okay, and this to me would be a great deterrent for folks because, again, if you're driving down the road and you have this opportunistic thief who just sees it on the back of your vehicle while you're at a red light, they're not just going to be able to run up and grab it. They'll have to actually have a lockpick tool with them to try to pull that one off.
They might walk up to it and be like, let me grab this real quick, and see there's a lock, and then turn around real quick and go.
Okay. So the next question is one that I actually always wonder about, and you guys sell so many bike racks, I'm sure you've dealt with this. Bike rack failure. And what I mean by that is, like, for instance, this Inno, which is not an inexpensive bike rack. This thing is super, like, feature packed, and I love it, but that shank scares the heck out of me.
Yes.
And I have it on the back of a pickup truck at times, on the back of cars, on the back of my wife's SUV.
Yeah.
But that scares me because I'm always wondering, you know, even a relatively light bike. So I have a Cannondale e-bike, which probably weighs 50 pounds. And then I have a Santa Cruz mountain bike, which probably weighs like 27 pounds. And when I have them on the back and I'm traveling 100 miles down the road, I'm just staring at it the whole time, hoping that doesn't bend or break. Is that a thing?
No, well, not that I know of. I mean, I know people who go like off-roading and take, so like there's now an off-roading rating for a bike rack. So sometimes, like lots of Yakima bike racks, they might have an off-road rating of 66 pounds for normal use, and then an off-road rating of 40 pounds because people are gonna tear it up, things like that. So I think if you're going over the actual weight capacity that we say, then hey, maybe that's gonna happen. I've never seen a shank break off, and I've seen like a lot of crazy heavy things being towed around. Like your trailer hitch is a really strong thing, and the shank which goes into it, that's really strong too. Now, points of failure could be maybe like your straps weren't tightened down right, or maybe your hooks aren't tightened down, or maybe you over tightened it or cross threaded it, things like that. So it's more of like the touch points on the bike that you have to be more careful of than the actual rack, in my opinion.
Okay, now frame mount versus tire mount.
Yes.
So this one right here compresses down over the tires.
Yes, it is.
Something that scares me about that though is, what if my tires on my bike have a leak? Well, maybe I went mudding with my bike and I have tubeless tires and I had a small leak and the thing slowly let all the air out while I was traveling. These you press down pretty firmly over the tire, but if your tire, especially on larger tire bikes, if you lose all the air pressure in your tire, what happens? Do you run the risk of it coming out, or do these still do a pretty good job of kind of securing them?
So for that case, like hopefully both of your tires don't go out. Like usually if just one goes, you're still kind of okay, but definitely get that fixed right away. The downside to frame mount style is you can't use them with carbon fiber frame bikes. So you have your pros and cons really. And if you have like say a step-through bike or like a women's frame or really weird framed bikes, the tire mount is just easier. But that is a case. Like I do know for front wheel mounts, sometimes people take the front wheel away. Like they let out the tires, sneak the front wheel out and just run off with it, because that is a thing. Front wheels can be pretty pricey, which is why we put our cables through our front wheels. So there are pros and cons. Wheel mounts are easier, faster. Frame mounts hold on to your frame.
Okay, and the kinds that slide down and just press toward the top, can you use those on carbon fiber bikes?
No.
Okay, so you really have to use this style. That's why whenever I collaborated with you all and I was like, okay, I have these bikes, that's one of the questions they asked me, is it a carbon fiber bike? And they are. So this is really what I need. I guess the next step would be to really strap the tires and use the cable to secure everything together. So if there is a leak, you at least don't lose the bike.
Sometimes some of the bike racks that have that dual wheel mount style, they also have a strap that goes under your rear tire from the bottom. So those are, and they have wheel chocks too on one side. So those are like extra features they add just in case you want that extra stability.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it. This has been a super informative video, and you guys have so many different types of bike racks.
So many. Oh,
I mean,
my
what is going on here real quick?
So this is what I call the elevator bike rack, and Sarah keeps laughing at me for it because it's technically called the door county. But this one has wires on it, so it's a 7-way wiring, so which you usually have on vehicles that you want to tow with. And the way this works is you plug it into your 7-way. That gets power, and then the entire rack lifts and lowers to get your bike on there. So it's like taking the ramp idea, but to the next level. That
is super cool. So this is great for folks who have heavy e-bikes and just don't have the strength to constantly put them on or off, and they don't want the one with the little thing, because you still have to put it up the ramp with that.
You still
it makes it a little easier.
You just have to ride it up the ramp. And this one also has wheels on the bottom. It is definitely a more pricey bike though, one of the most pricier bike racks that we have in inventory, but really, there's a bike rack for everyone.
Yeah. What's cool about this though, is like with mine, on my wife's vehicle, when the bikes are on, it actually blocks the tail lights a little bit, and it looks like that's what you get back here with this as well. You get little tail lights.
Yeah. And I've noticed too that now they have the newer bike racks, they have taillight and license plate relocation kits. So you can add your taillights, you can move your license plate out, and as long as those usually have a 4-way wiring connection, not a 7-way like this.
That is super cool. And I guess the 7-ways because it needs that extra power, not just for lighting to be able to raise and lower, because you're going to have the constant power supply coming from that.
Yes, it is a bummer because most cars don't have a 7-way connection, and they need that wiring harness installed, which we do here actually.
Oh, that's very cool. Well, that's awesome. I really appreciate you coming on camera and talking about these because, again, there's so many different bike racks. And when you go to the site, you're scrolling through, it seems like hundreds of them, and you're wondering what's the best one for me.
What's the difference? Yeah, it's really hard to just go through everything, but as long as you know what you're riding and you know what you're driving, that will help out a lot with going through that search. Awesome. Well, again, I really appreciate you coming on. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel. Check out etrailer.com if you're looking for a bike rack, because this is just a small sample of them. And I think there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's like 12 of them out here. They have like 20 of them inside. They probably have 100 of them that aren't even on display. Yeah, they got a ton of them. Yeah. So definitely if you're looking for a bike rack, ski rack, snowboard rack, utility box, all sorts of things, man, they just have everything. Guys, we'll talk to you again very soon.